Alright, I don't know why, but YouTube is finally taking some pity on my channel by being nice and sharing my videos with more people, which is honestly surprising, but I'm here for it. So y'all seem to be really loving the communal living rentals I've been sharing, so I figured let's build another rental, but do something a bit different this time, because I crave novelty at all times. So today we're building a pair of LUXE winter cabin rental homes. We're in the thick of all the winter holiday hustle and bustle, so I figured I should share something seasonal right now. I'm not a winter nor a holiday person though, so if you're also not into all that, don't worry. I have the urge to do like one winter build per year, then I have to move on. I grew up mostly in Michigan, which is winter for like 80% of the year, so I've suffered through enough cold weather, and now that I live in the South, I am not looking to go back to that. I will admit the cold weather and snow can be really nice and cozy for like a couple days, but then it gets old fast. So renting out a nice cabin like these for a couple days to get all that seasonal shit out of my system, then going back home to the warm weather would be ideal for me. Alright, let me explain what's going on with this build because these houses are looking pretty weird. So many people do these cute log cabins and craftsman homes for their wintry builds, which are adorable, but I'm a contrarian, so I wanted to do something very different. Instead of making a cozy family home, I decided to build two modern cabins for a pair of single sims or some couples to rent out for a very luxurious adult winter getaway. That idea was fun, but it wasn't unique enough. So when I found an inspo pic of this weird, curvy, modern home in the woods, I knew that's the direction I had to go in. With the build limitations in this game, I couldn't recreate that home exactly, but I took the idea of it and made it my own here. Building with curved walls is a pain in the ass, and building a multi-level curvy cabin on a curved foundation is even more so. You'd think that I'd have learned my lesson after the Simsy circle shell I did a while back, but apparently not, and now we're here again. They just look so neat, and I'm such a sucker for aesthetics that apparently I'm willing to make myself suffer for them time and time again. Since they are so finicky to work with, I ended up cutting out some of the tedious bits I had to do to build these shells and place items in the interiors. So we'll jump around a little bit here and there, but I try to keep it to a minimum. We're on the 50 by 50 Kiyomatsu Point lot on Mount Komorebi. These two cabins I'm building here are pretty much identical. I just rotated them differently and swapped the colors of the decor a bit. Each of them has 2 bathrooms and 1 bedroom with a double bed. Your Sims are going to want to rent these cabins so that they can really embrace the winter season, so I also made sure to create really nice outdoor spaces as well. Each cabin has their own fire pit. On the porches I put some outdoor entertaining spaces, there's an ice skating rink at the front of the lot, and at the back there's a pair of hot springs. Since you're right on the mountain, your Sims will also have easy access to all the winter activities Mount Komorebi has to offer. I'm not going on any trips anytime soon, especially not anywhere snowy like this, so taking my Sims on a little holiday here would be a nice virtual escape. Shit, now I'm gonna have to make some Sims just so I can have them vacation here. You know I spend way too many hours in CAS making Sims for my builds, and I really do not have time for that, but I might just have to do it still. So as I was working on editing this video, y'all made something amazing happen. We reached 1K subs on the channel, and I am flabbergasted. I started this channel as a creative outlet and never expected to get very far since I can't really commit tons of time and brain power to all the analytics and organization it takes to run a popular channel. So the fact that y'all still chose to subscribe, even though this is not the most consistent nor on-trend channel, is so touching. Thank you so much. I am still far from monetization and will not be quitting my day job anytime soon, but 1,000 subs is still amazing, and if this is as far as my little hobby goes, I'm more than happy. Even if you're not subscribed, just the fact that you are watching, liking, and commenting is really encouraging, and I love you for that. But yeah, this channel is just as much for me as it is for y'all, so definitely let me know what you're liking and what you're wanting to see from this channel so we can build something that we all really enjoy here. Okay Liz, enough with the sappy stuff, let's get back to the build. Moving inside, this first level is broken up into 2 parts. The front half is the entryway and stairs to the upper level, then the back half I made into a bathroom with a door to the backyard. I figured if your Sims are wanting to go to the hot springs, they need to shower off first, so having those close by would be good. Also, if they're out at the fire pit or ice rink, it'd be much more convenient to have a restroom on the first floor instead of having them go all the way upstairs. This bathroom is an odd, thin shape, so I made it into a sort of wet room setup. I used those open showers from Snowy Escape on each of the curved sections, one because they were some of the only ones that were going to fit well in this space, but also because multiple Sims can come in here to shower off at the same time before hopping into the hot springs without embarrassing each other. After putting in the stairs, there wasn't a ton of room in the entryway area, so I kept it pretty minimal. There's a big fuzzy rug by the door and a comfy chair in the corner for taking your boots on and off. By the chair, there's a little table with a guest book for all the people who rent this cabin to write in. On the opposite wall, I put that ski coat rack from Snowy Escape, as well as a big mirror, because a mirror is a necessity for every entryway. Moving up to the second floor, I skipped ahead a little because it took me so long to sort out the layout of this kitchen and living room area. With the floor plan in here, there was only one straight wall for the kitchen, so I put the bulk of it against that wall and then had to piece together the rest of the cabinets to fit along the curved section. I know most builders despise putting kitchens on diagonals and curves, but I don't find it to be all that bad. Sure, it's a little tedious and there can be some weird lighting glitches that pop up sometimes, but I kind of like the challenge of creating an oddly shaped kitchen. It actually kind of reminds me of my kitchen in real life. We have a lot of odd angles and spaces in our home, so our kitchen is a bit weird, but that's what makes it fun and unique. Yeah, I love a quirky home in real life and in The Sims. I did go through and playtest this kitchen and everything is functional. This time, I didn't give up halfway through playtesting. In fact, I actually made sure everything on this lot was functional before uploading it to the gallery. I know, I'm just as shocked as you. I think that was probably because I was having to do some weird placement of things with all of these curved walls, so I wanted to be extra careful. Also, the other cabin on this lot is pretty much just a copy of this one, so I was able to get this build done in a more reasonable amount of time, so I actually still had a bit of mental energy by the end of it to put into playtesting. Will I keep this thoroughness up for future builds? I'll try, but I'm not making any promises. This is a wintry cabin, so including a fireplace was imperative. I didn't have many good spaces to fit one though. So I put in a little diagonal wall in the corner of the living room and squeezed one in there. Initially, I put that big stone one from Cottage Living, but it was too big as the corners were popping through some of the walls. Eventually, I swapped it out for the more minimal one that came with Snowy Escape. There wasn't space here for a dining room, so I just put in some kitchen counter seating and used the rest of the space as the living room. There's a couple comfy chairs, a fluffy rug, and plenty of books. This is a great spot for curling up next to the fire and reading a good book while it snows outside. Ooh, now I want to do the same thing. I've actually been listening to the audiobook Legends and Lattes, which is like a chill, cute story set in a D&D-like world, but without all the fighting. I just started it, so I can't really say if it's that good or not, but I so want to cozy up in this living room and read that right now. If any of you have other cozy book recommendations, let me know because now I am in the mood to get some winter reading done. I wanted this place to look a bit more festive, but in a subtle, classy way, so I sprinkled some of those candles and holly branches everywhere. So many of the seasonal decorations in this game are very colorful and holiday specific, which I'm not super into. I really wish we had more neutral seasonal decorations, like just some wintry branches and floral arrangements and stuff. I don't celebrate any of the winter holidays, so I decorate for the season with random stuff I find out in nature, and I'd love to have that represented in the game. I like seasonal decorating in The Sims, but I just want more options that are more subtle and aren't tied to specific holidays. I went back and swapped out the fireplace for the Snowy Escape one, which fit the modern aesthetic more and wasn't clipping through the walls as much. It did still clip a little bit though, so I considered using the little wood stove from Eco Lifestyle, but that one just wasn't substantial enough. I wanted the fireplace to make a bigger statement, so I kept with the modern fireplace and just covered up the clipping. I put some of those wooden slats from Snowy Escape over the little bits sticking out of the exterior, then in the interior, I covered them up with a mirror in the bedroom. In the bedroom, I kept things fairly minimal, for me at least. This is a rental lot, so a bunch of clutter doesn't make a ton of sense in here. You've got all your basics covered: a double bed, a wardrobe, chair, some extra blankets, and a couple nightstands. Later on, I add in some of those holly garlands around to make things a bit more festive and hang up some curtains to finish out the space, but you'll see that in the tour at the end. Since I sized down those nightstands, the candles wouldn't slot properly to them and will look like they're floating because the item slots stay in their original place. So in order to make them look like they're not floating, I used the OMSP shelf from Ravishing. To do this, I raised the shelf to the height I wanted, then I filled up the item slots on the table so that the candle I was trying to custom place wouldn't slot to it. After that, I placed the candle onto the red shelf, dragged it off the shelf and over the table. Then I deleted all the extra items slotted to the table. It's the same trick you'd use for custom placing things on other surfaces, but since I sized down that table, I needed to slot the item I wanted to put on it to something at a lower height. Since the Sims team can't seem to figure out how to create shelves that items can actually be placed on, having this custom content shelf is super helpful. I'll put a link to Ravishing's page so you can download it for your game too if you want it. The bathroom up here is a decent size, even though it's a bit of an awkward shape. Since we already have showers in the downstairs bathroom, I focused on fitting a bathtub up here. Taking a hot bath in front of these big windows while you look out over an icy landscape was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. So I put in that stone soaking tub from Spa Day in here. I used a lot of the same items I did in the downstairs bath up here. While I was looking for some extra decorations, I found that little pine tree jar thing from the holiday pack. It's a great subtle seasonal decoration, so I had to stop everything to find a place for it. Back in the bathroom, I put in a few more decorative items and then changed up the flooring and wallpaper to match what we have in the other one. I absolutely love bathrooms that have those natural stone floors and wooden walls. They just seem so luxurious and relaxing, but in a casual, earthy way. If I feel like I'm in a fancy spa and in the middle of nowhere surrounded by nature at the same time, that's a winning bathroom combo for me. On the front porch here, I wanted to create a little more drama to this entrance. So I created a pair of little water features with this bowl from Dream Home Decorator, these stacked river stones from Spa Day, and a fountain water emitter. This side porch I made into an outdoor entertaining space. It's cold out, so you probably wouldn't spend a ton of time out here, but this area is too pretty not to take advantage of it, a little bit at least. Out here we've got a fireplace with a sitting area next to it. I also added in a big outdoor bar. I tried to avoid it, but that curved bar from Journey to Batu was just too perfect not to use here. I know, shame on me. It's widely hated, and for good reason. It's a trash pack, but when it hits, it hits. There are some really great build items in there that we just don't have replacements for from other packs. Alright, I feel the need to explain myself. The main reason I have that pack is because I got it in a bundle a while back because that was the only game pack I didn't have at the time, and it was cheaper to get the other two packs I wanted in a bundle with it than to buy them separately. So since I have that pack now, I'm gonna use it. I try to keep my use of it light because I know a lot of people don't have that pack, but sometimes I just can't help it. I mean, come on, that flooring and bar are just too good not to use. In front of the bar, I put a picnic table and hotpot cooker since we didn't have room inside for a full dining space. I seriously considered using that kotatsu table out here since it'd be a cozier spot to sit, but it just looked a little odd out here to me. If you want to swap that picnic table back out for the kotatsu table though, I do think it's still a good choice. Up on the balcony, I put a little bistro table and chairs for your Sims to take their tea in the morning. There's also a telescope and lounge chair to add a bit more functionality up here. For some reason, the stone flooring kept peeking through from the bathroom onto the balcony, and I couldn't figure out a way to fix it without changing the flooring in these areas to be the same. So instead, I just used more of those holly garlands and sized them up to cover the flooring glitch. Hey, we're working with curved walls here, so things are gonna be a bit funky, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. Since there wasn't really enough room inside for a holiday tree, I ended up putting it out on the porch here. This is just a vacation rental, so the tree would mostly be for decoration anyway, so it didn't bother me. Plus, some people have outdoor trees. I did use the functional tree out here because it looks more subtly festive than the decorative trees. If you're into it though, you can also do the gameplay of decorating it for an extra seasonal activity for your Sims to do here. Up in this third level, I originally considered putting in a few bunk beds and making it into a kid's room, but I ended up deciding against it. It's kind of a small room, plus there are already so many family-oriented winter cottages, and I really wanted to do something different with this build. So instead, I made this attic into a little library. Having access to a computer is always a good thing to include in Sims builds, but I can also see this place being rented out by some influencer or writer for a winter retreat. So having an office space they can work out of would be important to them. This would also be a nice little secluded spot to hide up in to read or knit by that wood-burning stove. That's about it for the interiors. I'm not going to show the decorating process for the other cabin because I pretty much just copied the rooms over from the first cabin, then recolored some of the items. I will give you a look at it though in the tour at the end. So the last thing to work on here is the landscaping. I wanted this lot to feel like it's tucked into a dense wintry forest. That means I planted a ton of trees out here. I tried to balance having lots of trees without making it so cluttered that they get in the way of you seeing things. I did actually do all the terrain paint on this lot too, just in case you place this lot elsewhere. Though most of these debug pine trees I'm using have snow on them, which will look weird if they're on a lot that's not covered in snow and would need to be replaced. So this build is pretty much only going to be useful for a snowy lot, and I really don't know why I wasted my time laying down terrain paint when you're never really going to see it. That was a bad idea. I like knowing it's down there under the snow somewhere though. In these shared yard spaces, I put a couple winter activities for your Sims to do outdoors. At the front is an ice skating rink. I'll admit the style of it is a little out of place, but it's one of the few outdoor activities that makes sense for a winter cabin, so I put it in anyway for the gameplay. I really wish we had a version of this that looked like a pond, or that the ponds that we built would freeze over and allow our Sims to skate on them. I really like the activity of ice skating for my Sims, but placing a formal ice skating rink just doesn't make sense for most builds. But having a pond version would be so much more versatile and my Sims would probably skate more. Speaking of, why can't we just click on the road and have our Sims rollerblade around? We can do that with bikes, why not with rollerblading? Anyway, yeah, I made do with the skating rinks we do have and put in the smallest one at the front of the lot and just tried camouflaging it with trees so it doesn't stick out too much. Back of the lot, I put in a pair of hot springs. I also put in one of those piranha ponds, but it wasn't quite working for me, so eventually I deleted that and just stuck to the hot springs. I surrounded them with a bunch of rocks and boulders so that they look like they are natural springs that are part of the mountain. I've done this in a few of my other builds and I love it. I dream of visiting some natural hot springs in real life. That's probably not gonna happen though, so I have to live vicariously through my Sims, so I keep building these hidden hot springs for them. If you want to make similar areas for your Sims too, just keep in mind that the debug rocks have lots of different footprints and can interfere with your Sims getting into the springs. So you may just have to fiddle around a bit with the placement of things. Thankfully, these snowy skate boulders seem to have small footprints, so none of them blocked out the springs and they are both functional. Alright, that's about it. I'm just going through and putting in the finishing details, so let's go ahead and jump into the tour and take a look around. Here we are on Mount Komorebi at our luxurious winter cabin getaway. I brought some Sims from my Moroccan restaurant and holiday penthouse builds because they each seem like they'd absolutely come on a fancy vacation like this. Here y'all go. Have a good time skating, and you two go take a soak in the hot springs while we take a look around. Here's the finished landscaping. Enough trees to look like a forest, but we can still access everything pretty easily. We got a good look at this front house in the speed build, so let's take a quick peek at this other one for the tour. So this cabin is pretty much the same. I just made the color theme in here a bit more blue, whereas the other one was more green. The first floor has the entryway and shower room. Not much change down here from the speed build, so let's move upstairs. On the second floor, I added in a few more decorations here and there to lean into the wintry theme a bit more. I also hung up curtains in all the rooms. Usually I like green more than blue, but I think the blue really works here and makes this cabin feel a bit more wintry than the other one. Here's the finished attic for this cabin. Pretty much the same, I just changed up the swatches a bit. Back outside, this is the finished porch for this back cabin. I don't handle the cold well, so I probably wouldn't want to stay out here for long, but it does seem like it'd be a nice spot to share some drinks and a hot pot with friends on a sunny winter day. Okay, now on to my favorite area, the hot springs. Imagine soaking in the steamy water while it snows around you. That sounds so dreamy. Get me here right now. Actually, get us all here, in fact. We each deserve this vacation after such a long year. That's the whole build. It's not the traditional winter cabin that most people probably want, but that's what I like about it. And since when do I make super traditional builds? So if you're like me and also want to embrace the season, but don't want to do all the cutesy family stuff, hopefully this vacation rental helps you do that. On the other hand, if you are someone who wants to go hard on all the traditional winter festivities, I do have a few more wintry builds that should be right up your alley. I'll go ahead and link the playlist here for you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button. It really helps out. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. I'd love to have you here. If you've done all that and want to go the extra mile, let's chat in the comments. Remember, be kind to yourself today, and I'll see you next time.